Hi there, it's Chris Walker, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about a presentation I just gave to a conference at the Government House of New South Wales. It was a very special event to celebrate Tourism 2020 for Nepal. My presentations were specifically targeted toward being age friendly, and I thought it was interesting enough just to go back through the slideshow and maybe share a little bit of what I presented if you're interested. You can see here the logo of the Silver Group Asia. They helped me. It's my brother's company, just to be transparent. They have a book called Marketing to the Aging Consumer. It's a spectacular book, but if you're over 50, don't read it because it's extraordinarily depressing as to what's going to go wrong and how people are going to sell things to you in the future. But the title of the program was Unlock a Lifetime of Tourist Spending. So, the most startling fact: population aging is unprecedented, a process without parallel in the history of humanity. Now, that's an extraordinary statement by the United Nations. Just have a look at why. The UN population statistics for developing countries, i.e. the wealthy ones, as opposed to developing economies, developed economies are more likely to be the source of wealthy tourists. It shows that in developed countries, the 50-plus population is the only growing segment of population, while the younger age segments are declining as a percent of the total. You can see it here. 50 plus gone up 6.5%, 25 to 49 down 4.4 and down 2.1. So it would be logical that if you were going to market a product to a consumer group that's growing, you would choose the 50 plus. During the next 2 decades, older consumers will be the primary drivers of consumer expenditure in the Asia Pacific, Europe, and the US. Now, this is astonishing information. There will be 2 billion people over 60 by 2050. Now, let's just carry this a little step further. 80% of all leisure travel spending is spent in the USA by people over the age of 50. 35% of all travel and 80% of cruises are purchased in the EU by people over 50. In Japan, 85% of tourism spend across key Asian markets is by 50 plus. And in China, 39% of total overseas travelers and 66% of spending. And of course, these statistics have aged a little bit since this report was done. So you can only imagine that the statistics have increased. These consumers spend close to 50% of all CPG dollars, yet less than 5% of advertising is geared towards them. Now, we can access the 55-year-olds as we couldn't ever do before. In the USA, for example, over 75% of 55-year-olds are online every day. In Japan, nearly 100%. In Australia, nearly 85%, let's say. So accessing the 55-year-old market, which used to be a challenge because they were digitally disabled in some sense, is no excuse anymore. In China, the current use of smartphones is exceeding by a long way the computer use. In Sweden, it's a little different, but it's highly parallel. So what we would think is that in marketing to the most powerful wealth-owning demographic, psychographic on the planet, looking for adventure, looking for travel, we would build apps and websites to absolutely target people over the age of 55. It's called age friendly. But what we're finding is that when people over the age of 55 went online, they complained that there was no help desk. The website seemed insecure. The translation wasn't accurate, and navigation was confusing. So In Nepal, what we're trying to do is attract tourism, but not the old backpacking tourism that considered adrenaline as the definition of an adventure. What we're talking now is a group of people, a large growing population of very wealthy people around the world who consider adventure as being going somewhere different and doing something different. And that's a broader definition of the term adventure. And Nepal is poised perfectly to take advantage of these issues with their new program of infrastructure. I told stories of 40 years ago when I first went to Nepal. And when I first went there, if you weren't a warrior, super fit, carrying medicine and first aid kit, ready to be carried out on the back of a donkey if you got sick, you wouldn't go. These days, the helicopters, the medical first aid that's available, the first aid stations all the way up the mountains created an environment that's absolutely ideal for those people over the age of 55, even over the age of 65, to go to Nepal, spend their dollar, live in 4-star hotels, which is what they want, be environmentally conscious, experience an adventure without actually having to spend one single gram of adrenaline in the process. This is Chris Walker. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Bye for now.